What does insomnia cause? Depression, fatigue. It causes emotional disturbances and inability to think clearly and foggy-minded, all those things. Plus the fibromyalgia is sending all these impulses at once to your brain. It overwhelms your brain. That's why with fibromyalgia you have a tendency of wanting to sit and stare at the wall because you just don't need any more input. How many people don't like loud music anymore? Everybody. It just doesn't feel good with fibromyalgia because your brain is so overstimulated to start with that you turn that music up and you just want to go crazy. And maybe you really enjoyed loud music and concerts and things like that before you got sick. But that's why. You're already on overload. You don't need it. Sympathetic nervous system is firing. That makes the adrenal glands fire. How many patients have been told their adrenal glands aren't working right? Everybody's just about. They don't work right because they've been firing adrenaline until they wear out. Fatigue, that's obvious, you're not sleeping. Foggy-minded, how can you think clearly with all these impulses coming into your brain and not sleeping? Forgetful, can't remember anything, your brain's already on overload, how can it remember anything? And irritable bowel syndrome, the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the opposite of the sympathetic, they're both the involuntary nervous system, that's what makes your food digest. One or the other runs, they don't run very well at the same time. So when the sympathetic is running, the parasympathetic shuts off. When it shuts off, guess what happens to your intestines? They don't work right. So you either are constipated or you have diarrhea. It's just that simple, real simple, process of why what happens. You've got your respiratory centers real close up here where you're having this pulling and this irritation. So all of you, just about everybody, feels like, I can't breathe. What a horrible thing. You're in massive pain. You can't sleep. You wake up so exhausted you feel like you're going to die. You can't breathe. You're depressed. You're anxious. The sympathetic nervous system makes you feel like you're going to have panic attacks, and oftentimes most of my patients do. And that's what's happening. That's what fibromyalgia is, and that's why it's so frustrating, and that's why it's so intense for everybody. You've got this gorilla beating you up on the back all the time. Your follow-up care, I'd mentioned a little with your chiropractor. I'll be glad to talk with your chiropractors and give them what they can need to do the follow-up care. But I want to mention one thing, and this one is because this one bothers me about as bad as anything. I haven't had this happen a lot, but I don't want it to happen to you guys. I've had patients who have gone home, who have started having symptoms, and I try and call and check on people from time to time, and they didn't get any follow-up care. They started having symptoms. Some of them had just some. They didn't get too bad. Some of them had some, I can only think of a couple people, like 3 people right now. But one of them had some pretty severe symptoms and it kind of mellowed out again. And one of them had some pretty bad symptoms. I said, I want you today. Drive today, go see your chiropractor, have him call me. Don't wait till tomorrow. Well, and then another phone call and nothing. Do I understand this process? I totally understand this process. Do you know how hard it is? Sometimes for some people who have been sick for so long, it's like the person who's been in jail. Nobody wants to be in jail, but some people, when they get out, they'll do a crime so they can go back. And with fibromyalgia, it's the same thing. You get used to living like that. Sometimes there may be a little bit of a hook there because you can get back on your OxyContin if you have symptoms. And one of my patients, I think that was the draw. But I don't know. I don't really know for sure. But please, 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 if we get you to the point where we're feeling good and we send you home, if you have any symptoms, get in and see the chiropractor right away. If you feel like you don't want to and you feel like going back over to that other stage again, back place where it was comfortable, where you lived for years, get some help. Go see a good psychologist, get some counseling, spend some time with some good friends to hold your hands and help you through it, because you're going to change and you're going to balance and you're going to get through it. At least I believe you will. I'm not a psychologist, but the reason I understand is because it was exactly the same way for me. I never took the meds because I don't do it well in meds anyway. But if I felt like I could have felt better on the meds, I'm sure I would have taken them. But it was so difficult for me to go back to living feeling normal. It was horrible. It was really horrible. I'd get up every morning and I'd go and immediately grab my stomach, which always killed me, and go, I am so sick, there's no way I can live through today. I can't go to work. And I go, why am I saying this? I'm not sick. My stomach doesn't hurt. I'm rested this morning. I feel good. So why am I saying this weird thing? And then I'd go to, then I'd think about work, and I'd think, everything in me says, don't go there. If you go there, you're going to get sick again. And not only that, I just don't want to go there. I hate work. I didn't hate work. I love my work. I've always loved my work. But everything in me, it was so strong that eventually I just sold my practice. I sold my practice and developed a nutrition company, and was working on some things of trying to find out what fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue, and had some products and stuff we used that we thought would help, and ended up doing essentially nothing. But anyway, I traveled and spoke on nutrition for years until I finally got to the point where in my mind I felt like I could go back to work, and where I really wanted to go back and treat patients again. And that's when I bought this practice up here in Lake Tahoe. But it's strong. It's strong. I understand it's strong. I understand those feelings are really, really intense, and that you can have incredible aversion responses. I've seen some people, it just seem like they walk through it and it doesn't seem to be a big deal for them, but I think they're probably faking it. It's strong. When you're sick for a long, long time, it's hard to think normally, because when all you think about is pain all day and how you're going to live through it. It's hard to think about growth and being productive and being happy and being enthusiastic. It's a change. It's a change, but stick with it. It comes. Learn to be thankful. If we can get you through this, learn to be forgiving, learn to be thankful. Those things end up in joy and enthusiasm. But if you don't have those, you can't get there anyway. It doesn't matter. But you need to learn to be thankful, learn to be forgiving, because the bitterness and all those things will just, it's a cancer. It just eats your soul, makes you a miserable person that nobody wants to be around anyway. Oh, family. Going home. Okay, I'm talking, everybody goes home with this talk, and I want you to play it for your spouses, and I want them to really pay close attention and get the point. The point is this: they're not well when they go home. I don't care if the symptoms are gone or not. They're not well. They have severe emotional problems. It's going to take time for them to get well. Don't be dumping a lot of work on them. When they come home, don't say, oh, now all of a sudden you have to assume all these duties. I want you to go to work. I want you to do this and that. Give them some time to heal. They're not okay. I'm a pretty strong person. I think it took me a long time to get over that hurdle and to be okay mentally. And it's going to take everybody else. That's probably going to take them a long time too. If not, be thankful. But give them time to heal. Let them heal at their own rate. When you guys go home, you're going to find that that place you lived before probably is probably not a true reflection of you anymore. I've had most of my patients go home and their rooms are blacked out and the house is dingy, and yeah, you guys are laughing, but it's true. And so you go home and you may want to paint the room and take the tinfoil off the windows so the light doesn't hurt your eyes anymore, and brighten the place up. But make it comfortable for you. Do something. If you need to change something. Try not to change your spouse or your kids, but change something in the color of your house or what you're doing. Do something that makes you really happy. Plant some flowers, take a walk, learn to dance. Do something that, that you can get out and, invite your friends over, stay up late just because you want to, not because you have to anymore. And try and look at life from a newer standpoint. And please, family members, please be patient, be loving, be supportive. You have no idea what your spouses have been through. No matter how much they told you, you couldn't possibly understand it. It's way too intense. It's kind of like trying to explain marital relations to an 8-year-old. They just don't get it, and it's just too hard to understand this stuff. Oh, medications is a really, really big question. I don't want to miss that. Everybody asks me, do you want me to get off my medications? I never ever take anybody off their medications. This is, whoever puts you on those medications needs to take you off. They need to be responsible for you and your medications, and they need to work to get you off of those medications. We do have doctors in town here that many of our patients see who will help regulate and get them scripts and things like that. But my job isn't that. My job isn't to take you off your medication. Would I be happy to have everybody get well and get off the medications? Of course. And so if I were to offer any suggestion at all, it would be this. As the symptoms go away, work with your doctor to get off your meds. Obviously, if you have half the symptoms, it would just make common sense that maybe you shouldn't be taking the full amount of medications, because that creates a whole new set of side effects. Your body is balanced. People who are in a lot of pain, they eat the medication up. They don't get high off of it. The pain eats the medication up because you have all these open receptor sites. But if you don't need it and you're still taking it, now you can create addictive type problems and so forth. I've seen a lot of people get off medication surprisingly easily. I was actually kind of shocked, because as the pain lessened, they called their doctor, and the doctor said, okay, we're going to work with you and cut back. And we see it with almost every patient that comes in, so this is not uncommon. Have had some patients who have been addicted, have taken way too much and abused it too. It creates its own set of problems. But no, I don't take anybody off of medications. Not my job. Absolutely not my job. Oh, I think we've covered so much. During the course of treatment, a lot of people say, well, what can I expect during my first month of treatment? Everybody is absolutely different. And like I say, for a person who doesn't respond, they're going to expect something a lot different also. But typically we see this, and this is, sometimes I'll have patients, like I don't know why, but I've got a number of women here right now who just walked in and they just like, boom, 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 they're just feeling better like this, and life's kind of easy like you. And they're sleeping right away, and the pain's going down, and they're feeling better, and it's just like a miracle. That's not entirely typical. It seems like it's a little atypical right now. I'm glad we have that, but typically I'll see the first, usually 3 weeks, they're emotional. I'm not quite sure why, but it seems like it triggers your emotions. The patients get very emotional during this period of time. A lot of times they cry. A lot of times they are very frustrated, scared, because they don't know what's happening. There's another component to that also. They just left their home. They traveled here, and even though this is, I think, one of the most beautiful places in the world here in Lake Tahoe, at the same time, you're away from home. You're living by yourself, and you don't have the support of your family and everything, and I think that's a component in there also. The men go through the same thing. It's not just women, and oftentimes the men, as their emotions start going like this, they don't take it very well. So I encourage the men to understand ahead of time if this happens, and don't bail on me the first time they get a little emotional or have the women come in, and the women will come in and say, I had a crying day yesterday. And they go, that's not an event. Women do that anyway. A man comes in and says, I had a crying day yesterday. This is an event. He may be going home tomorrow. You with me? Because men don't do this, and so this does happen sometimes. So that first month, usually somewhere around 3 or 4 weeks, typically, everybody's different. My patients will come in and they go, I'm so tired, I think I'm going to die. They just like, the bottom fell out. And at that point, usually a few days later, they start sleeping. It's the sympathetic nervous system. Even though you're so exhausted and the sympathetic nervous system kept you from sleeping, at the same time, the sympathetic nervous system is pushing you and keeping you going. So when it turns down and starts going back to normal, you just feel like you can't go. And then when it finally turns down enough where you can sleep, usually I have people come and say, I slept 12 hours last night. And you're waiting for that, huh? and this is, so I think you're already there. But this is exactly what happens. You will you just get so exhausted and you just fall asleep and you sleep and sleep, and somewhere after about a week or so you wake up and you've kind of got a renewed life because you don't have as much anxiety anymore and you don't have the depression's lifting and you've rested now and the pain's getting better still, and we still have these bad spots, but we're working it out, and maybe now you can get into massage and start breaking up some of that scar tissue, which brings you to another level. That's kind of what happens. And so the next month usually is a lot easier. At that point, usually we're walking around and visiting places around the lake and doing things with friends and traveling and shopping and that kind of thing, even if you've been shut in. But and like I say, everybody's different, but that's kind of typically, what we see. And I think that you guys who have been here that long can attest to that. Going home oftentimes is a real difficult thing. I have a number of patients who just, after they've been here, they didn't want to be here when they first got here, but after they've been here for a while, they don't want to go home. All of a sudden they're feeling good, they're having a good time here, and then guess what's in their mind? It's this little fear, if I go home, I'm going to get sick again. Like me, if you go back to that office, you're going to get sick again. Don't go there. And usually it's not warranted, and when they get home and they're painting or something, they kind of settle out of that. I'll tell you the biggest fear, and again for people who are watching this at home, the biggest fear most of the women have here is going home to their husbands. And they're going home to unrealistic expectations, to being pushed, to being misunderstood, to maybe some of the trouble that was there from fibromyalgia coming back and eating them. I have a lot of women here right now that don't want to go home for that reason. I think they stay longer just so they didn't have to see their husbands. So husbands, please, please, please don't bring up the problems of the past. They were probably fibromyalgia related anyway. Be gentle, start a fresh life, start a fresh romance. Please, please don't beat my patients up. They've been beat up enough. They need your help, they need your support, they need your love. I just can't emphasize that enough. It's so big with every single patient, almost every patient that I send home. Because just the fact you've had fibromyalgia has messed your marriage up anyway. In almost every case, very, very few husbands are able to be loving and patient. And if you've had a husband who's been able to be loving and patient, just be really thankful. They're very far and few between. The other problem with leaving is you're leaving friends. One of the biggest things I see here is I see patients. I've never had a practice where my patients are treated and they go out and sit in the waiting room for an hour and talk with everybody. But it happens now every day. They don't leave. So a patient will walk in, they'll see all these patients, and they go, oh my goodness, there's 20 people here. I'm just going to be here forever. And I say, no, I've already seen them all. They're just talking. And it's kind of like that. Because you've got people that understand you, who've been through the same thing you've been through, who you can sit out here and you can say, well, do you have these kind of headaches? Oh, yeah, I got that. Your stomach? Oh, yeah, my stomach does that. It's like, hey, somebody understands me, because a lot of people have been so isolated, they didn't have any friends that had this, and they didn't even have any comfort at all. Now all of a sudden they've got a whole group of people, and everybody understands them, and it's a big deal. And those are hard friends to leave. Stay in contact with them. Give them a call, write letters. They'll be friends for the rest of your life. It's an intense thing making really close friends who have been through the same thing you've been through. I don't really want to do this. I'm constantly asked to tell about myself with fibromyalgia, and I really don't like talking about it. Maybe it's just because it's like a part of my life I don't want to remember very well. When you guys come in, you start telling me about these symptoms. Sometimes it was so strong for so many years, I feel it. Sometimes I get sick to my stomach when you're talking about it, and I get like nauseous. You know what I'm saying? It's like it was there for so long, I can feel what you're talking about. And so sometimes it's like, get it out of my life. That's not part of my life anymore. But you know what it is? Part of my life, and this is part of what I do every day. And so if it helps somebody somewhere, my fibromyalgia came on, it seemed like in an instant. I woke up one morning and there it was. And I just thought I had the worst flu I ever had in my life. And what you think? You say, oh, no big deal. I'm not scared. It'll go away in a couple of weeks, which it didn't. then you think, well, how long do flus last? I've heard of some flus lasting 6 weeks. 6 weeks doesn't go away. 2 months. Now you're scared. I've got something here that maybe, and then there was all this talk on TV about fibromyalgia and stuff, and so I went down to see a friend